Greetings. This is Babalawo Salako with another episode of Talking IFA. Today I wanted to deal with the topic of the term Isese. Greetings. I'm Babalawo Salako. I was initiated as a priest of Ifa and Obatala in Nigeria in 2006, and I've been practicing the Ifa religion for over 30 years now. My mission is simple: to help those who are new to the religion or lost in the religion. So if that's you, then buckle up and join me. This is Talking IFA. It's spelled Isese, and it's a Yoruba term. So the definition of Isese, Isese, is simply tradition. It means tradition, the traditional way of doing something. So when we say Isese, we just mean we want to practice the Yoruba religion in the traditional way in which it's practiced in Yorubaland, in Africa. So that's all Isese means, to delineate it from the other flavors of Yoruba religion practiced here in the West, primarily the Cuban systems, Lukumi, Santeria, or in Brazil, Candomblé, or in Trinidad, Shango Baptist, and there's other flavors, or you might say, quote unquote, denominations, if you want to use that term. And so even though it's Isese, the S in Yoruba, that S has a slash under it, or a mark. So it has the SH sound. So even though it's spelled Isese, it's pronounced Isese or Isese. So in any way, the term has been used here a lot recently, in recent years, I should say. And a lot of people want to know, okay, well, where does that term or that word come from? What does it really mean? So let's go back to a little history of the term. So in Nigeria, when we're talking about the traditional, we're talking about Yoruba religion. And when I say Yoruba religion, I'm talking about the birthed original Yoruba religion that the Yorubas birthed. They did not birth Christianity. They did not birth Islam. So even though many of them practice that now, they didn't birth that. So that's the first thing. So when I say Yoruba religion, so I think as far back, Baba Wande was talking about it, and I don't know if it was, I think he said the 1950s, but at least the 1980s, at the very least. The group of practitioners had went and petitioned the Nigerian government because they had days set aside for Christianity, they had days set aside for Islam, but they didn't have any days set aside for the traditional Yoruba religion in Yorubaland, right? So that did not sit well. So they decided to use the term Isese because people, were getting in their feelings about it. And they were saying, well, my family practices Islam, or my family practices Christianity, therefore that's our traditional religion. So when you say the term traditional religion. But when I say traditional religion, I mean the religion that was birthed by the Yoruba. And that's the one that we practice, and that's the one those of us who want to practice it the traditional way call Isese today. Okay? So that was kind of where it was there. But when you think about it, though, the thing they were trying to do at that time was delineate between Yoruba traditional religion, Islam, and Christianity. So let's fast forward over here in the West, especially here in the United States. So when we use the term Isese, it's not has anything to do with us trying to delineate between what we do and Christianity or Islam. It has to do with delineating between what we do and what other quote-unquote denominations are doing here in the West. So you get that over here so you can see me a little better. So over here we have the Cubans, who pretty much brought the religion here, and they preserved the religion. They started calling what they do Santeria, and later also Lukumi. Okay, so because they were preserving and they had a lot of different influx of different Africans that were brought over during slavery, they didn't just have Yoruba people, right? People from the Congo and other places. So they kind of, you know, meshed some of those together and what they were doing. And it wasn't just purely Yoruba, okay? But it's predominantly Yoruba. That's the focus, that's the core of what they do. So what it's kind of evolved to is a form of denominations now. You know, it's kind of like in Christianity, they had the Catholic Church first, then they had and then they had the Protestants and Methodist, Baptist, Episcopalian, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, a lot of those different that they call denominations of the same religion, Christianity. The Baptists, for instance, or let me say like the Seventh-day Adventists, for instance, they believe that the Sabbath day, holy day, is on a Saturday. And for instance, Baptists believe it's on a Sunday. And a lot of other churches that meet on Sundays. But they're all still practicing the same religion, Christianity, just different forms of it, which they call denominations. So that's kind of what has gone on here. We're all practicing what we call the Yoruba traditional religion, but we have different denominations now with a few, you know, there's some differences. So for us who say that we practice Isese or Isese, we're simply saying we want to practice it in a more original form. I don't want to say pure because what we're doing is not 100% pure, but it's closer to the original form. So, you know, more so than Lukumi or Santeria. So that's kind of what that means today. So let me give an example. One difference in our practices, for instance, is IFA, the hand of IFA. So when we give someone a hand of IFA, that is giving them some of the ashe of Ifa Rumula that they can access, right, directly. They can do prayers to, etc. So in Ifa, the sacred nuts of Ifa are called Ikin, and you have to have at least 16. So normally when we give the hand of Ifa, we do, we might give 18 or 21. But the thing about Iking, they travel, right? So you may start off with 21, but then when they decide to travel, next thing you know, say you have 18, they want to travel, you now have 17. You're still good as long as you have 16. Then they travel, another travels, now you have 16. Okay, you're right on the borderline at that point. You're real tight. So once you get down to 16, you have to be very careful and really watch what you're doing, because once you get down to 15 or below 16, I don't care if you paid $5,000 for your hand of Ifa. Once you get down to 15, you no longer have Ifa, according to Baba Wande Abimbola, Professor Wande Abimbola. He says that to have Ifa, or the spirit or the energy or the Ashe of Ifa with you, you must have 16 Iking. So once you get down below that, now you have to go through another ceremony to add Iking back to your hand to get above 16. So that's how that works. But for instance, with the Cubans, the difference between men and women is when women want to come and get a hand Ifa, they may only give them 1 Iking, 3 Iking, 5 Iking. I'm not sure, all different ones. I've heard different numbers, but they're always well under 16. And they say they're giving them the hand of Ifa. Well, according to Baba Wande, you can't have a hand of Ifa under 16, so they don't really have the Ashe or the spirit of Ifa with them if they only have 1 Iking or 3 or 5, etc. Right? So in Isese, we don't do that. Anybody who gets a hand of Ifa, whether you're male or female, you get above 16 so that you can really have Ifa with you. Okay? So that's just one difference in the practices between Isese and the Cuban system. So, but basically, that's what Isese is. We want to, people who practice Isese, their goal is to get as close to or practice the religion the way it was traditionally in Yorubaland in Nigeria, West Africa. Okay? So, is there anything else to say about Isese that I think you may want to know? Well, one last thing I'll say is when I've used the term Isese, and I'm talking about the religion, that's not the only term you can use for the religion. So Baba Wande says the term he chooses to use is just simply the Yoruba religion. And some people say the traditional Yoruba religion, etc. But he also said you can also call it Ifa, which I do a lot, that I practice Ifa. So you could call the religion Ifa. You could call the religion the Orisha, a religion. You could call it the Yoruba religion or traditional Yoruba religion. Or you can call it Isese, or if you're Cuban, Lukumi, Santeria. In Brazil, Candomblé, Trinidad, Shango Baptist, etc. There are different forms or quote unquote denominations out there, but this is the one. If you're practicing Isese, that's what Isese is. It's just simply trying to practice it the traditional way, as pure, as close to that as possible. But when you think about it, Isese is a denomination now of the religion, But if you say Yoruba religion, that encompasses all denominations. If you're practicing Yoruba religion, that could be Lukumi, that could be Candomblé, that could be Isese, that could be Santeria. Those all can be called Yoruba religion. So that's why Baba Wande chooses to use that term over some of the others, but he said there's nothing wrong with the other ones. They all work. They're all legitimate. So if you hear somebody that comes and tells you, oh, are we Lukumi or are you Isese? And that's what they're talking about. So that's all I have for that today. I hope that I cleared that up for some of you. And I look forward to the next time, the next episode of Talking IFA with me, Babalawo Salako, Odabo Ireo.